Good morning. Surprising as it may seem, we are having difficulty getting past a certain hump. The hump is not ignorance of Scripture. Many of you can quote the Master better than I can. The hump is a habit, so old, so respectable, that we do not even suspect it. The habit of looking outward for God, for help, for authority. We do it politely. We call it church. We call it teacher. We call it best practice. And in 1,000 lovely ways we postpone the one move that ends the search. Do you see that? Now, I am not here to argue against churches, nor to conduct a cynical expose of teachers. That is not our work, and there is no grace in it. The work is singular and, frankly, practical. How do I verify Christ within myself? Not, how do I feel thrilled by a message? Not, how do I get endorsed by a platform? But how do I, this one sitting here, awake at 3 a.m. with a question, find the living answer without dialing a number or consulting a calendar? Do you see that? Let us make this a spiritual diagnostic and not a weapon. If a message, any message, leaves you dependent on a man, a woman, a membership, or a machinery, it is not the Christ teaching you. It may be about Christ. It may be charming about God. But the Christ, when heard, draws you inward to the Comforter. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. The hallmark of true teaching is that the teacher can go away and you still have the presence. The class can end and you still have the light. The book can close, and you still have the voice. Do you see that? The aim, then, let us be very clear, is inward self-sufficiency in God. Not human self-sufficiency, not bravado, not I'll manage, but the quiet, unveiled recognition that God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. This is not duality. We are not sending prayers to a far-off deity, nor flattering a human mind with metaphysical compliments. This is merely a human form of turning within to the living center where the Father's activity, the Christ, is forever saying, I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Our task is to be still enough to let that be true. Do you see that? So, as we begin, hold this simple test close. Does this hour turn you inward? Does it make you less needy of outer props and more available to the inner whisper that says yes or no? If the answer is yes, then we are already past the hump. If not, then let us be honest and begin again, because nothing less than the Comforter will do. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. And when that willingness becomes our habit, the argument ends and the living begins. Now, having said that, let us look at the odd thing that keeps us circling the runway. A verse can be true and still powerless in your experience. A statement can be beautiful and still leave you where it found you. As long as it remains a line on a page, it is literature. And I say that with reverence for the page, but also with honesty about its limit. Reading is a holy beginning, but it is a beginning. The power doesn't sit in ink. The power is the life that dawns when a truth shifts from being admired in your thought to being realized as your state of consciousness. Do you see that? Take this simple phrase, Christ in you. You can repeat it while driving to work. You can embroider it on a pillow. You can teach a class on the Greek grammar of it. But when the phone rings at midnight with a diagnosis or a bill or a betrayal, if panic takes the reins, what became of your embroidery? Where was your Greek? I am not chiding you. I have been there, and sometimes I find myself there again. The point is not to shame our humanity, but to illuminate the difference between collecting words and receiving presence. Christ in you must not remain a sentence you admire. It must become a consciousness you inhabit. It must be the quiet, living awareness that where you are, the Father is. That the activity of the Christ is your life breath and sufficiency. Not a thought about God, but God experienced as the core of your being. Do you see the difference? Now, why do we love sermons and books and podcasts? Because for a few minutes they lift the level of our thoughts. The mental air gets fresh. The sun breaks through. That is legitimate, and I am grateful for any word that lifts. But if the lift fades as soon as the program ends, if you are left needing the next lift as a narcotic, then the truth has not yet been embodied. You have only borrowed altitude. The infinite way is not a message. It is an experience. It is not that the sentences are wrong. No, they may be exquisitely right. But rightness without realization is like a map in a locked drawer. It tells you there is a way, but you still haven't walked. You may say to me, why do you repeat this so often? Well now, frankly, because hypnotism repeats. The world keeps whispering, look out there, depend out there, fix it out there. And so we must answer again and again, no, God is individual being. God is my being. God is your being. I have letters that complain of repetition, and I understand. But consciousness is not installed by novelty. Consciousness is ripened by faithful turning, by the same simple truth revisited until it stops being a visitor and becomes the homeowner. Do you see that? How then does literature become living? Not by debate, not by more adjectives. It becomes living when you turn, even for a few moments, away from the parade of words and into the silence. And there is felt a shift, sometimes as warmth, sometimes as release, sometimes as the most ordinary yes or no that rings with a rightness not your own. In that instant, the verse breathes. The presence that the sentence pointed to stands up within you and says, I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. And your part? To be a willing instrument. I am willing to be still and let you be God. This is not duality, not pleading with a distant deity. It is the simplest act of recognition. The source is here, as the very life of me. When you taste that, even lightly, you will know why 1,000 sermons could not replace a minute of realization. And then the books become holy again, not as crutches, but as signposts, because now they direct you to what you have felt. From that moment we are ready for proof, not in arguments, but in the quiet authority of grace verified in silence. Do you see that? Now let us be honest about a pressure that works on all of us, including me. Institutions, religious, spiritual, educational, even humanitarian, survive by continuity. They must fill a calendar, a room, a budget. They must keep the doors open and the lights on. And so, quite naturally, they evolve an atmosphere where your return is encouraged, your attendance is cherished, your loyalty becomes a virtue. I am not condemning that. I am naming gravity. Do you see that? The gravity is outward. Come back to the building. Come back to the teacher. Come back to the program. But the Christ gravity is inward. Return to the Father within. And there, of course, is the tension. Dependency is subtly cultivated, often by very sincere people. You need the building, you need the calendar, you need the expert, you need the authorized interpretation, you need the right belonging, and even the right vocabulary. No one says it harshly. It is implied in the way announcements are framed, in the quiet suggestion that this is where the pipeline is, and these are the approved channels. Even lovely leaders, God bless them, can drift into being needed, into becoming the weather vane that decides your weather. And the more you need them, the safer the budget and the larger the platform. That is gravity. Do you see that? Here is where we must keep our ethical edge without bitterness. A man or a woman sins when they leave you believing that you in any wise need them. Apply that to me, to ministers, to healers, to channels, to influencers with halos on their logos. If my words do not end in your silence, I have missed the purpose of speaking. If my presence does not reduce your dependence on my presence, I have done you harm, however eloquently. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. The hallmark of the Christ is that the person can go away, and the presence remains. Do you see that? Now, why is this so persistent and so easy to excuse? Because we confuse guidance with control, and community with mediation. We say we are guiding, but what we mean is we are deciding for you. We say we are building community, but what we mean is you come through us to reach God. It is almost always unconscious. The ushers are kind, the live stream is polished, the small groups are warm, and yet the underlying signal remains: keep coming to the outer well. And the people do thirst, so they keep coming. But the Master did not say, I will be your permanent water boy. He said, in effect, a well shall spring up within you unto life. Do you follow that? Let me be very plain. This is not anti-fellowship. We are not anti-choir, anti-class, anti-conference. We are anti-mediation. No more shall you worship in this holy mountain, nor yet in that temple, but in spirit and in truth. Fellowship is holy when it escorts you to your own inner altar, and then steps back. Teaching is righteous when it dissolves into your direct knowing. Organization is redeemed when it exists to disappear, when its success is measured by the number of souls who can sit alone, open the inner ear, and hear. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, He doeth the works. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. The main course is not the meeting, not the membership, not the machine. The main course is Christ in you, proved in the 3, 4, 5 minutes of stillness where the yes or no rises without outside permission. When the institution supports that and does not substitute for it, grace has its rightful throne. Do you see that? Now let us come to the axle on which the whole wheel turns. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Say it inwardly, not as a slogan, but as a recognition dawning. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. This is not poetry. It is not religious ornament. It is the very explanation of Christ in you. Not a little saint installed inside a human, not a holy tenant in a human apartment. No. Christ in you means God as the life of your life, the mind of your mind, the soul of your soul. Identity, not accessory. Do you see that? Now immediately, let us remove the two familiar distortions. This is not ego inflation. It is not, I am God, therefore I get my way. The proof that it is not ego is right in the Master's own words. I and the Father are one. And then, in the same breath of truth, I can of mine own self do nothing. Oneness without self-assertion. Identity without self-will. The sense of I that swaggers and demands is precisely the I that must go away so the Comforter may come. And so, none of this is license for irresponsibility, magical decrees, or metaphysical shopping lists. It is the surrender of personal will to divine being, the willingness to be an instrument. Father, thou doest the works. I am willing to be still and let you be God. Do you see that? This, too, is the end of the long, weary search. If God is individual being, if God is your being, then the source is not at a shrine, not in a personality, not at the end of a subscription. The source is the presence at the center of you, the same presence that spoke through prophets and poets and the Master himself. My function, any teacher's function, is temporary. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. The mark of true teaching is that it disappears into your inner hearing until you can sit in a chair, close the eyes, and know, I and the Father are one. And with that same breath, rest in, I can of mine own self do nothing. Not two statements, one revelation seen from two sides. Do you follow? And now, because God is individual being, proof must be of a certain character. It will not come as crowd pressure or outer push. It will arise as guidance, as peace, as correction, as grace. It will say quietly, yes. It will say quietly, no. It may say, wait. It may say, go now. It may nudge you to apologize, to pay a bill you feared, to decline an offer that flatters, to accept an assignment you did not seek. It will steady you when appearances shout, and it will correct you when the old habits plead their case. You will feel the change not as adrenaline, but as a lift of burden, a rightness without strain. Do you see that? This is why the experiment must be simple. If God is your being, then 3, 4, 5 minutes of honest stillness are enough soil for a sprout of proof. Not drama, not fireworks. A presence, a release, an answer that does not argue. And when it comes, you will know why we call this the axle. Everything else spins around it, and the motion becomes effortless because the center holds. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Keep letting that sink from phrase to fact, from thought to realization, and you will find that the search gives way to discovery, and the discovery to a quiet authority that needs no outer permission. Now let us make this very practical, because without discernment, the old gravity will dress itself up in new robes, and we will call it progress. How do you tell when a man is teaching and not the Christ? How do you know when a message has charmed your mind but not released your soul? Here is a simple test you can carry into any room, any book, any stream of words. When you leave, are you more fearful of being without that person? Do you feel an anxious pressure to stay connected, to subscribe, to keep the pipeline alive, as if your safety depends on a calendar and a card on file? Are you more convinced that you cannot hear God alone? Do you see that? If the answer is yes to any of those, then regardless of the beauty of the phrases, it was a man teaching. It may have been a sincere man. It may have been a learned man. It may even have been me on a bad day. But the Christ never leaves you in bondage to an outer source. The Christ draws you inward to the Comforter and then, gently, steps out of the way. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. A man or a woman sins when they leave you believing that you in any wise need them. Do you follow? Now watch this other counterfeit. There is a peace that is not peace. It is sedation. It is the soft relief you feel when someone else tells you what to do, what to think, whom to avoid, what to trust. It quiets your nerves the way a pill quiets a symptom. But the fear remains underneath, hungry for the next dose. True peace does not sedate. It rises. It rises from within as rightness without strain, as the quiet yes or no that needs no argument, as a presence that does not push but steadies. One flows from the authority of personality, the other from the authority of the presence. Do you see that? Guidance is not dependence. Guidance points and then releases. You may be invited to practice. You are never required to pay allegiance. You may be helped to hear. You are never told you cannot hear without the helper. If attendance, payments, or constant visits are the terms on which you are safe, you are not being guided. You are being managed. And the Christ does not manage you. The Christ liberates you into God as your being. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. When that is realized, even in a flicker, the teacher can go away and nothing is missing. Do you see that? Now, if this test exposes bondage in you, please do not turn it into a crusade. We do not rail. We do not fight institutions or people. We recognize a belief operating in our own consciousness, the belief that we are separate from Source. And we meet it where it lives. How? By silence. By the 3, 4, 5 minutes of honest turning. Father, am I seeking a substitute for you? Is my peace dependent on a voice out there? And then wait, quietly, until the inward teacher speaks, perhaps not in words, but in that rightness without strain. That is the cure. Not rebellion, not gossip, not exposure. Silence. The Comforter does the work, and you find yourself standing, alone with God, yet never alone, free. Do you see that? Now, because this is so, let us fix in our thought a principle that removes the temptation to fight on the wrong field. We do not compete with churches. We do not compete with doctrines. We do not compete with medicine or psychology or moral pressure. We do not compete with anything or anyone, because the battlefield is not out there in persons and objects. The battlefield is consciousness, and the victory is the dissolution of a belief. Do you see that? The moment you begin to argue with a person or a system, you have accepted their premise, namely, that power is out there. No, God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. The proving ground is within, where belief presents itself as suggestion, as fear, as I must, as I can't. And there it must be met and peacefully unseated. Use the simplest analogy we have. If someone says to you, 2 times 2 is 5, you do not slap them, you do not sue them, you do not run a campaign to reform their arithmetic. You meet the suggestion where it has weight, in your own awareness, and you rest in the truth until the falsity has no hypnotic pull. You do not strain, you recognize. 2 times 2 is 4. You abide in it, and in that abiding, the mesmerism of 5 evaporates, and no battle was required. Do you see that? So it is with the grander arithmetic of spirit. The claim arises, you cannot be guided without them. You cannot be safe without this membership. You cannot be whole without that method. Where do you meet it? Not in the man, not in the machine. You meet it in your own consciousness. Father, this suggestion says I am separate from Source. But God is individual being. God is my being. My guidance is within. Christ is here. And then you rest there until the fear loosens and the inner rightness without strain takes its quiet throne. Extend this to the very arenas where the world shouts loudest. Money, health, relationships. A bill arrives and the old belief screams, your supply is a paycheck, a donor, a deal. Where will you meet that belief? Not with frantic calls. First, meet it within. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. The activity of the Christ is my supply. All that the Father hath is mine. Sit until the weight shifts from figures to presence. Then act as you are led. Yes, pay. Yes, negotiate. Yes, wait. But as instrument, not as beggar. Do you follow? A symptom appears, and the belief announces, your life is in matter. You are at the mercy of conditions. Where will you meet it? Not by entering into competition with medicine or with opinions about medicine. We are not in competition. We are meeting a suggestion. I can of mine own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. The life that I am is God life, indivisible, incorruptible. Rest there until the panic drops and the next right step, inner or outer, stands self-evident. A relationship tightens into need, and the thought insists, I require their approval, their apology, their presence. Where will you meet it? Within. No person is my source. God is individual being. God is my being. Love is fulfilled in me, as me. Then you will find yourself blessing, apologizing, or walking away. Not from reaction, but from freedom. And so we do not fight institutions, symptoms, or people. We meet beliefs in consciousness until the appearance loses authority. This is gentle, and it is unyielding. And now, having reframed the conflict where it belongs, we are ready for experiment, not more talk. The 3, 4, 5 minutes of honest stillness become our laboratory. We will go within and wait until the teacher is heard. The yes or the no is given, and the suggestion dissolves in the light of realized presence. Do you see that? Now here is our laboratory. Do not make it grand, make it faithful. Several times a day, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Close the door if you can, close the eyes if you will, and turn within. No analysis, no figuring. If words must be used at the beginning, let them be very few and very meek. Father, reveal thyself as my being. Let thy grace be sufficient. I can of mine own self do nothing. I am willing to be still and let you be God. Then, hush. Stop speaking inwardly and listen. This is not duality. We are not sending prayers to a far-off deity. This is merely a human form of consenting to the fact. God is individual being. God is your being. Do you see that? What is this not? It is not self-hypnosis. It is not positive thinking. It is not rehearsing affirmations to force an outcome or to bully fear into silence. We are not manufacturing a state of mind. We are yielding personal sense to spiritual awareness. We are not trying to get something to happen. We are letting be what already is. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Let that be the atmosphere, and then rest. Do you follow? Now, how will you know when contact is made? Often, it is as undramatic as the air becoming still in a room. A quieting of strain. A warmth that is not temperature. A release, like setting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. A soft authority that does not argue. Sometimes there is a simple yes or no that arrives whole, without reasons, yet with a rightness that needs no defense. Sometimes there are no words at all, only an absence of push. One touch of the Christ is more than many words. Do you see that? Keep the periods short and frequent. The power is in the returning, not in the length. 3 minutes before a meeting. 4 minutes in the car in the driveway before you go in. 5 minutes after reading a page to let it become life. A minute or two on waking, a minute or two before sleep. These intervals are not religious chores. They are little doors cut into the wall of outward hypnosis. Each time you turn, a thread of dependence loosens. Each time you turn, the inner government is acknowledged, and the outer compulsion loses its crown. Do you see? If thoughts race, do not wrestle. Let the mind do what it will, while you do what you came to do. Abide. If needed, whisper again, once. Let thy grace be the sufficiency. And then back to silence. No straining for signs. No peeking to see if it is working. Sit as one who accepts that the well is within. God is individual being. God is your being. In such simplicity, the teacher is heard, not always as words, but always as presence. And Christ in you moves from phrase to proof in the only place it can, your own consciousness, visited and revisited until it is home. Do you see that? Now let us turn this into an experiment you can run this very day. When a decision presents itself, small or large, do not run to 10 voices first. Do not poll your anxieties. Turn within. 3 minutes will do. Father, is this for us right now? And then wait. Not a vague stare. Not bargaining for the answer you want. A reverent pause in which you consent to be governed. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. I am willing to be still, and let you be God. This is not duality. It is merely a human form of recognizing that God is individual being, your being. Do you see that? What is this wait? It is spiritual receptivity. It is the surrender of push. It is the willingness to be corrected, redirected, or told no without resentment and yes without pride. It is the quiet refusal to conduct a courtroom trial inside your head. You are not weighing pros and cons. You are letting the inner government declare itself. You are consenting to the fact that guidance is not manufactured by thought. It is received as grace. Do you follow? How does it arrive? Often as an impulse so simple you might miss it if you blink. Send the note now. Decline politely. Wait a day. Go and apologize. Do not buy that. Take the earlier train. Sometimes it is a restraint, a soft hand saying, "Not yet." Sometimes it is peace, and in that peace the urgency vanishes, and with it the compulsion to act. Sometimes there is no word at all, only the disappearance of strain, and in that new space the next step stands evident of itself. Do not demand reasons. Reasons are the children. The presence is the parent. The reasons may follow. The rightness comes first. Do you see that? How will you discern the Christ from vanity, fear, or wishful thinking? By fruit. By their fruits ye shall know them. Real guidance increases freedom and love. It leaves no sticky residue of guilt, flattery, or dread. It steadies you to do the simple right without applause. It is never panicky, never grandiose. The ego wants fireworks, endorsements, and dramatic signs. The Christ speaks with a still authority that does not need to defend itself. If, after the yes or no, you feel more available to bless, more honest, less entangled, you have heard well. Now do not dramatize this. You are not waiting for trumpets. Keep the intervals short and faithful. Ask within and wait. When the yes comes, it carries its own power to proceed. When the no comes, it carries its own ease to refrain. When there is wait, it is rest, not procrastination. And as you live this way, one email, one purchase, one meeting, one invitation, you will see the proof begin to show in the places that do not lie. Decreased fear, less need for external permission, a growing inner steadiness in the ordinary pressures that used to blow you about. You will consult people when appropriate, yes, but as confirmation, not as source. The center shifts. God is individual being. God is your being. The quiet yes/no becomes the signature of indwelling activity. And Christ in you is no longer a phrase. It is the government upon your shoulder, practical, present, and sufficient. Do you see that? Now inevitably there comes a day, sometimes a week, when you sit down for your 3 minutes and you find only blankness. No warmth, no whisper, no release. And right then the universal belief knocks at the door with a bundle of substitutes. A teacher to binge, a class to register, a sensational thread to follow, an institution to reassure you with schedule and slogans. Come here, it says. We will make you feel spiritual again. Do you see that? It is not wicked. It is gravity. It is the old hypnosis of outward dependency, and it is strongest exactly when the inner noise is dying. The battle, then, is not with them. It is with the impulse in us to escape the stillness before the birth. Let us name the usual recruiters. Fear about money. Call the donor now. Secure the deal. You can't afford to wait. Fear about health. Get 5 more opinions tonight. Search till your eyes ache. Fear of being wrong. Find an expert to relieve you of choice. Borrow their certainty. Fear of being alone. Stay connected, or you'll lose your place in the circle. These are suggestions, not powers. They do not fight fair, they fight fast. They promise relief by restoring the old tether to an outer source. But the Christ does not tether. The Christ liberates you into God as your being. Do you see that? Now hear this without condemnation. Emptiness is not failure. Emptiness often means the mental static is withdrawing and the ego is losing its foothold. Of course it complains. Of course it shouts, "Nothing is happening." That cry is the sound of an old king losing his throne. Stay. Stay 1 minute longer than your habit to flee. Sit as one who knows, "I can of mine own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works." Let the desert be the doorway. Do you follow? If words help, use them as a gentling, not as a battering ram. Whisper once or twice, with honesty, "Thy grace is my sufficiency now." Again, softer, "Thy grace is my sufficiency now." And then drop it. Let the words carry you to the threshold, and then be still. This is not duality. This is merely a human way of consenting to the fact that the well is within. God is individual being. God is your being. Rest there without bargaining. No peeking to see if it is working. Sit as one who trusts the seed under the soil in the moment before it breaks ground. And when the urge to substitute rises, text the teacher. Turn on the stream. Buy the next certification. Do not scold yourself and do not obey. Meet the suggestion where it lives, in your own awareness. No person is my source. The Comforter abides. Thy grace is my sufficiency now. Then hush. If afterward you attend a service, fine. If you read a page, fine. The question is not attendance. The question is allegiance. Never surrender your inner teacher to any outer claim. Fellowship is holy when it escorts you to silence and steps back. Authority is Christ when, after you listen, you can be left alone with God and remain steady. Do you see that? Hold the line in these empty-feeling minutes, and you will witness a subtle reversal. The panic subsides. The substitutes lose glamour. The quiet rightness without strain reappears on its own authority. Not fireworks, governance. Not sedation, freedom. Stay, and grace proves itself. God is individual being. God is your being. The battle ends where it began, in consciousness. And there the victory is simple. You did not run, and the inner government resumed its throne. Do you see that? Now comes the sweet turn, from waiting to working without strain. Having learned to sit and not run, we discover a new identity emerging. Not a person trying to get God, but an instrument consenting to let God be God. I can of mine own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Do you see that? Not duality, merely the end of self-assertion, the end of the personal push. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. And so your part is consent. The activity is Christ's, moving as peace, wisdom, love, order, timing. You will feel the shift in the very muscles of your life. Where there was tightening, there is ease. Where there was rushing, there is cadence. Where there were 5 plans in the air, there is a single quiet yes or no. The bills are the same. The calendar is the same. The children still need shoes and supper. But the burden has changed shoulders. The government is inward. Action is no longer a fire drill, but an appointment kept with grace. Less personal strain, more effortless rightness. Do you follow? Now let us apply this to helping others, because here dependency likes to masquerade as love. When someone calls in tears or in fury, resist the urge to dispense your opinions like tablets. Do not hurry to fix. Say instead, let us go to God together. Then together, be still. A minute or two is often enough. Father, reveal thyself as our being. Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. Then wait until the atmosphere changes, until the weight in the room drops, the breath evens, the pressure to advise dissolves. In that loosened air, guidance is simple. Perhaps an apology, perhaps a call to the office, perhaps a doctor, perhaps a nap. But the action will come as a natural next, not as compulsion. Do you see that? Here is the paradox you will love. The more you rely on inner grace, the more practical you become. Not theoretical practical, actual. You make the call at the right hour instead of 3 frantic hours earlier. You spend the money that should be spent and save the money that should be saved without the old battle of fear. You answer 1 email and delete 5, and the world does not collapse. You are quick when the yes carries power. You are still when the no has authority. The fixes grow fewer. The fruit grows better. Do you follow? But now hear the warning that keeps the stream clear. The instrument has no glory. The moment you think, I did that, or my consciousness healed that, the well seems to dry, not as punishment, but because personal sense has stepped in front of the light. Back at once to, I can of mine own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Back to anonymity within your own heart. No medals, no secret pride, no ownership of results. The help that appears is impersonal grace, showing up as love, as wisdom, as steadiness. If there is any sign that it was Christ, it is this. The other is left less dependent on you and more reliant on God within themselves. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. Do you see that? And so we integrate. We return and return and return until returning is the native posture. So simple a child can live it. A child trusts, pauses, listens, obeys, forgets, and plays again. That is our model. 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, the inner teacher becomes the familiar voice, and life arranges itself around that center. God is individual being. God is your being. Then the proof is plain in the day-to-day. Less strain, timely action, a love that does not bind, and a freedom that quietly multiplies wherever you are sent. Do you see that? Now let us make room for a gentle separation that is not rebellion, but maturity. You may sit in any church you love, sing any hymn that lifts your heart, study any scripture that has fed saints for centuries, and you may appreciate any teacher whose words have helped you. But you do so without handing over the keys of your being. Do you see that? God is individual being. God is your being. Therefore, no platform, no pulpit, no page, no personality is your governor. You attend as one already indwelt. You listen as one already accompanied. You bless as one already supplied. And when it is over, you can walk out in peace, because the Comforter remains when the speaker is gone. Do you follow? Here is the inner posture while listening. Sit there quietly, and if you need a whisper, let it be this. Let me hear what is true, and let Christ interpret it within me. Father, translate these words into thy meaning in my heart, and let all else pass without argument. Then be still inside, even as the outer ears receive. This is not duality. It is merely a human form of consenting to the fact that the teacher is within, and that truth is an activity, not a quotation. If a sentence is alive, you will feel it as rightness without strain. If a sentence is not yours, it will roll past like a cloud and leave no mark. No debating society is required. The presence sorts wheat from chaff without noise. Do you see that? Now the signs of freedom are very plain. You can receive truth anywhere. In a cathedral, in a kitchen, in a bus queue. Because you are not hunting anointed locations, you are welcoming anointed presence. You can release what is not yours without offense or fear. And you can walk away from any room, any stream, any schedule, and still be whole. No clutching of notes as if the page were your oxygen. No anxiety that if you miss a meeting, you have missed God. If asked for a gift, you can give with joy, or you can refrain with the same joy. Because you are not buying favor, and you are not paying premiums on an insurance policy. If a verse appears hard, you set it down and wait. And when life breathes into it, you pick it up again. The proof that Christ is governing is this: life grows simpler, and love does not bind. Do you follow? Hold again the ethical line, because it protects both learner and teacher. Any teacher worth hearing wants to be unnecessary. The true ministry is to escort you to direct communion and then rejoice to see you go on with God alone. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. If a voice demands allegiance, promises safety in exchange for dependence, or implies that without this pipeline you cannot hear, recognize it as temptation and meet it in your own consciousness. We do not fight persons. We do not scold systems. We quietly turn. Father, thou doest the works. My sufficiency is thy grace. I can of mine own self do nothing, nor do I need another's self to do it for me. Then we are still until peace takes its throne. Do you see that? And this is how you maintain the gentle separation in practice. Before a service, 3 minutes inward. Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. After a service, 3 minutes more, to let the wheat root and the chaff blow away. Before you open a book, a minute of consent. After a page, a minute of silence so the sentence may become life. In conversations, a breath of inward listening before you answer. These short silences restore spiritual autonomy. They keep you in the room without being owned by the room. They let you love widely and belong inwardly. God is individual being. God is your being. In our final turn, we will close the circle with the simple proof that ends the argument. But the action is already clear. Return daily to the inner teacher, several times, a few minutes at a time, until freedom is the normal air you breathe. Do you see that? Now let us close the circle, and let us do it simply. We began with a phrase admired on paper, and we have walked it across the threshold into life. From literature to living, from institution to inner government, from admiration to embodiment, from leaning on men and methods to the dependency test. Can I be left alone with God? From fighting appearances out there to meeting belief in consciousness. From talking about practice to the 3 to 5 minute laboratory. From theory of guidance to the yes/no experiment. From personal strain to instrumentality. And then to a gentle freedom that neither rebels nor obeys hypnosis. Do you see that? Each step has been one motion, really. The turning, the consent, the inner acknowledgement that Christ is not out in the air somewhere, but present as the activity of your very being. Now hear the center set like a stone. God is individual being. God is your being. Christ in you is not a slogan to print. It is the living sufficiency of your life when realized. The argument ends when you practice. Not when you win debates, not when you memorize statements, but when, in stillness, you verify that an interior peace and rightness answer you, govern you, sustain you. One touch of the Christ silences 10 pages of discussion. And so we do not compete with churches or books or teachers or medicine or psychology. We do not compete at all. We consent. We turn within and let grace be grace, and the fruits tell the truth. Do you follow? Hold again the safeguard that must accompany any closing benediction. If a man or a woman leaves you dependent on them, it is not the Christ teaching you. A ministry that binds you to it has mistaken its purpose. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. The Christ always escorts you to the inner teacher and then, gladly, steps aside. Freedom is the signature. And now your part, as plain as breathing. Several times a day, 3, 4, 5 minutes, turn within. No striving, no merchandise to buy. If a sentence helps you begin, let it be very small. Father, reveal thyself as my being. I can of mine own self do nothing. Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. Then hush. This is not duality. This is merely a human form of consenting to what already is. The well is within. Ask when needed, is this for us right now? And wait for the quiet yes, the quiet no, or the quiet rest. Let the fruits verify it. More ease, more honesty, less compulsion, timely action without pride, refusal without guilt, love that blesses without binding. It will become natural. It will become childlike. The calendar will remain full, and yet your heart unhurried. You will still read, still listen, still gather, but as one who already carries the sanctuary. And the proof will not be in your arguments. It will be in your day. Decisions unforced, provisions timely, friendships clean, and a still center that remains when the room empties. Now, before we scatter, let us do the only proper closing. For a moment, turn within. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Be still. Let the peace answer for itself. God is individual being. God is your being. Do you see that?